What's up, y'all? We about to come at y'all from an angle that we have not done before. Normally, we just talk about older things, inside the music things from people in the past, back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, or what have you. But this is just everywhere, so we felt like we had to jump in and give you our take on the Snoop Dogg situation. So, without further ado, we're just going to jump into it. Snoop Dogg is a hypocrite. There's no other way to say it. Anybody that says one thing and does the opposite of that is a hypocrite. And that's exactly what Snoop has done. And not for the first time. You know, usually you have people that do things that are kind of sketchy, kind of off, and you like them because of what they do, or that's appears to be out of character at the time. So you give them a pass. At this point, we've given Snoop Dogg several passes, whether we all realize it or not. From day one, Snoop Dogg has been known for his gangster raps and desire to keep it real for the LBC, as he says. His lyrics have always emphasized not loving them hoes, having sex with as many women as possible, while telling his listeners it ain't no fun if the homies can't have none. Remember, this is a man who performs in a genre of music that puts high importance on keeping it real at all times. Now, understanding that, ask yourself this question. Do you think he lives his life this way? Meanwhile, in his personal life, Snoop has been married to the same woman for nearly 30 years. Why he not rapping about that? Needless to say, he doesn't live in the hood. Why he not rapping about that? Next thing. In 2012, Snoop went to Jamaica to record a reggae album. While he was there, he decided to check out the Rastafari culture and faith. His journey was led by none other than Bunny Wailer. For those of you that are unfamiliar, Wailer is most known for being a member of the world-famous Wailers that consisted of Wailer, Bob Marley, and Peter Tosh. Now, while Snoop was in Jamaica, conveniently, there was a documentary being made about his journey while he was there. As a reflection of his experiences and how they'd affected him, Snoop changed his name from Snoop Dogg to Snoop Lion. Now, before we proceed, let's first acknowledge that this wasn't the first time that a music artist has changed his or her name outright or as a sort of alter ego. Think of people like Beyonce, when she was also calling herself Sasha Fierce, or Eminem, when he was calling himself Slim Shady, or Diddy with all the different names he's had. And even somebody like Garth Brooks had an alter ego. He did it too. The difference in Snoop's case, though, is that none of those other artists claimed that their change had any kind of tie or correlation to their faith or any type of religious aspect. It was more of a publicity stunt or something to just show this is another side of their personality. At the time, Snoop reflected that he was embracing the new Rastafari version of himself, saying that the name was not chosen by him, but was given to him by a Rastafarian priest. Along with Snoop's new name, he was also adopting a new style of music. This new style would embrace peace, love, and nonviolence. Snoop claimed to be born again, saying that he was bored with the type of raps that he'd been doing, and he wanted to do music that kids and grandparents could listen to. Now, to put even more emphasis on how his change was not merely a publicity stunt, Snoop went on to say that his, quote, third eye was wide open now, unquote. To hammer that point home, the movie that documented his spiritual journey was named Reincarnation, and it was released in theaters in March of 2013. Right behind that, the album that was also called Reincarnation was released in April of 2013. So how long do you think it took Snoop to move away from this rebornness, this revitalization, this new version of himself? Next year, maybe? Try later on that same year. Because later that same year, apparently the reincarnation was already over, as Snoop Lion was now Snoopzilla. and that tied directly into the album that he was about to do called the 7 Days of Funk album. Still months later after that, Snoop was back in the studio recording songs with titles like Are You a Freak? Don't sound like something you want your kids or your grandma to listen to. Also gone forever was Snoop Lion, as Snoop changed his name again, this time reverting back to Snoop Dogg moniker. All of that brings us up to Snoop's latest act of hypocrisy. As far back as 2011, Snoop was making fun of Donald Trump. Check out the following things he said about him. At the time, when these comments were made, Barack Obama was in the White House, but speculation was that Trump would possibly run for president. Addressing that possibility, Snoop said, Donald's saying he wants to run for president. That wouldn't be the first time he pushed a black family out of their home. He followed that up with, I wish I had half of Donald's money, but for that I'd need a 20-year-old's coochie and a divorce lawyer. Now, full disclosure, these comments were made at a Comedy Central roast of Donald Trump, but still, it was worth putting those out there. In 2017, Snoop, in no uncertain terms, and he wasn't kidding this time, let the world know what he thought of Donald Trump. He was discussing the possibility of black people performing at Donald Trump's inauguration. In no uncertain terms, he let everybody know where he stood on that particular subject. Paraphrasing a little bit, this is what he said. So ain't no one gonna perform for Donald Trump, huh? Which one of you jigaboo ninjas gonna be the first one to do it? I'm waiting. I'ma roast the F out of one of you Uncle Tom ninjas for doing it. Does that sound like somebody that is kidding, or sounds like somebody that did not mean what they said? He doubled down on his feelings about Trump in that same year when he appeared in a music video. In that video, Snoop used a fake gun to shoot at a fake version of Donald Trump, who in the video was called Ronald Crump. It was a prop gun, and one of those flags popped out that says bang, but nonetheless, he was taking aim at the man that was currently the president of the United States. Trump had a reaction to Snoop Dogg's video, and in usual Donald Trump form, he put a tweet out. And the tweet said, quote, "Can you imagine what the outcry would be if Snoop Dogg, failing career and all, had aimed and fired the gun at President Obama? Jail time," Trump wrote. So, now let's go on to 2018. More Trump content. Snoop was on DJ Suss's show. Suss made a point of telling Snoop that his show's fans would be upset if Trump was criticized on his show. Snoop responded with a profanity-laced tirade, telling Suss that his fans were racist. He also called Trump the N-word and reiterated, more emphatically this time, that Suss's fans were MFing racist. As recently as 2020, Snoop was advocating for removing Trump from office, as Snoop himself intended to vote against him. By 2024, though, Snoop had softened his hardcore stance against Trump. Why? On Trump's last day in office, during his first term, he commuted the death sentence and prison term of Death Row Records founder Michael Harry O. Harris. Snoop had been advocating for Harris's release, as Harris had been convicted of attempted murder and drug trafficking in 1988. Could that be the reason for Snoop's change of heart? Or was money the driving force behind it? This is what Snoop had to say about his softened stance against Trump. He said that Trump, quote, "ain't done nothing wrong to me," unquote. He then went on to say that Trump had only done great things for him, and that he had nothing but love and respect for Trump. That's completely different than what he was saying before. I don't think he could have been more diametrically opposed to what was said the first time as opposed to what he was saying right now. Let's keep it going. When the time came for the 2024 presidential election, Snoop continued his pro-Trump stance. Snoop refused to state who he was voting for, which is his right, but his reasoning was flawed. He said that he didn't want to say who he was voting for because he didn't want people to be mad at him because he picked Kamala Harris over Trump or vice versa. But remember, he had no problem during the previous election publicly stating his voting stance. His refusal to say who he was voting for this time spoke volume. Snoop's full pro-Trump colors wouldn't come out though until after Trump won the election. While technically Snoop didn't perform at Trump's inauguration, And even though Trump wasn't at the event, Snoop did perform at an event that was held in Trump's honor. There were also lots of people that were Trump supporters, Trump cronies, and all that, which we will name names here in just a moment. Days before the inauguration, Snoop performed at the Crypto Ball, which was the first of its kind and was a twofold celebration. First, it was celebrating Trump's impending return to the White House. Second, it celebrated Trump's meme coins being launched that weekend. This release would increase Trump's net worth by billions. Not millions, billions. Now, let's do a name check of the people that were there. For those of you out there that would say, well, Trump wasn't even there. Trump wasn't there, but his representatives were there. What representatives? How about Donald Trump Jr.? Is that close enough to him? Donald Trump Jr. was there. So was David Sachs. David Sachs is a South African entrepreneur. And once Trump took office, he became the chair of the President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology. House Speaker Mike Johnson was there. Senator Marsha Blackburn was there. Senator Ted Cruz was there. Senator Cynthia Lummis was there. Congressman French Hill was there. Patrick McHenry, a former House member, was there too. He wasn't even in the House anymore, but he was still down for Trump, and he was there to show his support. Now, to get into this event, general admission was $2,500, so there were no free tickets. Couldn't just walk in. Some sponsors, though, paid up to $1 million to have access to the green room on the ground floor in the main ballroom. Snoop, serving as his own DJ, performed his songs in front of a crowd of about 1,500 people. Most of them appeared to be disinterested. Most of them didn't even seem to realize that he was performing, or they weren't interested in what he was doing. Either way, all pictures of the event showed us a bored crowd, a disinterested crowd, and Snoop just kind of doing his own thing on stage. This act of performing at an event for Trump completed Snoop's switch up from certified Trump hater to surprising Republican backer. Many people were outraged. Many of Snoop's fans were outraged as they remembered Snoop's no-holds-barred take when he talked about any black entertainer who dared do what he himself had just done. Backlash was swift, as Snoop was losing tens of thousands of followers every day following his performance at the Crypto Ball. To date, he's lost over 500,000 followers in the past month. Now, what did he have to say to people's response to what he did? Did he have something to say explaining his stance? Why the change of heart? Other than just saying, he ain't done nothing to me. There has to be more to it than that. So surely, after all this, he would come out with something that's more illuminating, that's more question answering as to the big change. In a video he shared on Instagram, Snoop pledged to answer all the hate he was receiving with love. Quote, y'all can't hate enough. I love too much. Get your life right. Stop worrying about mine. I'm cool. I'm together. Still a black man. Still 100% black. All out till you ball out or till you fall out. I ain't going nowhere. I'm right here. Unquote. He also would go on to call himself a child of God. There were a few problems with what Snoop said, at least from my perspective. First, he tells everyone to stop worrying about his life. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we only know about the stuff that Snoop says or does because he tells us on social media. Once he does that, he gives all of us the ability to talk about what he says or does. He's basically given us license to address his life because he's told us about it. If you don't want us to know or to speak on it, don't tell us about it. Then we can't talk about it. This is the same man that has done several reality shows, which is the ultimate in exposing your personal life to anybody who cares to watch. You can't get famous by being public, then plead for privacy or to be left alone when you don't want to be bothered or when it's a subject you don't want to discuss. You can't have it both ways. Also in his statement, Snoop tells us that he's 100% black. Like we didn't already know that. There's nothing he can do about that. God already took care of that for him. And it has absolutely nothing to do with whether he's black or not. It has everything to do with what he is doing in comparison to what he said. That's the real subject. And speaking of God, like Snoop did, addressing his comment, aren't we all children of God? Or is that just reserved for Snoop? His response did absolutely nothing to address his flip from Trump hater to Trump backer. It served no purpose other than to fall into the saying something is better than saying nothing category. He would have been better off just saying, I was high. We could have signed off on that. We know he smokes weed. He goes to great pains to let us know that he smokes weed. That would have been a better excuse than this, whatever that was that he trotted out. That feeble effort to try to get people to get off his back. Some people have suggested that Snoop was basically going where the money took him. In other words, he was being paid by certain entities, certain factions, to talk down on Donald Trump the first time Trump was in office. Eventually, though, the payout and the money that Snoop was receiving for coming from that angle dried up. Lucky for him, according to what some people say, another revenue stream opened up. This time, though, it was on the opposite side of the aisle, and he'd have to support Donald Trump, not attack him. As a bonus, though, Snoop might even get a bonus of Trump meme coins this time. That was a payout that didn't happen previously. Intriguing. So he went for it. Whatever everybody's feelings are about what Snoop did or didn't do, we know what happened next. The rest is history. Thank you all for checking out our take on Snoop Dogg's 540-degree switch from man of the people to Trump supporter. He can say what he wants to, but our eyes tell us everything we need to know. Thank you again. Keep an eye out for further special reports. Chances are we'll probably do one of these on all of the people, or at least 3 more of them, that took it upon themselves to attend this crypto ball. And we'll see what we have to say about them. Thanks again, and see you soon.